So Aston Villa fall out of the Champions League at the quarter-final stage, but there's nothing really that you can feel otherwise than great pride in what Aston Villa have done in their first Champions League campaign under Unai Emery. I think maybe in the days to follow, you'll be looking back at those two chances that Sensor and Conte failed to take, and Ian Matson's goal-bound shot that was heading in before Pacho cleared off the line. But right now, a few hours after the event, it's 1 a.m. on Tuesday night, you just have an immense feeling of pride that Villa have, so firstly got to the quarter-final of the Champions League, but also just on this night won the game against PSG, but also coming back from 2-0 behind. But that is made even more impressive because Villa were 5-1 behind on aggregate in the tie, and it looked like a lost cause really when Yuri Tielemans halved Villa's deficit to 2-1 this evening. You thought, well, Villa have got the goal, and they're gonna kind of remove the possibility of this being an embarrassing night, because when PSG went 2-0 up, the kind of energy and atmosphere within Villa Park sapped initially, then all of a sudden it rose again. For 10 minutes, Villa and the Villa Park atmosphere, it was crackling, it was fantastic, it was superb, all of the kind of superlatives that you can give, and it was just like that for most of the game. But after PSG made it 1-0 and then 2-0, it felt like, okay, this is now a mountain for Villa to climb, and a comeback did not look on the cards whatsoever. So when Tielemans scored, he gave Villa a glimmer of hope, that's what you'd say. But then they start well in the second half. The message at half-time from Emery was one of, and this is what John McGinn said at half-time, and it's pretty basic stuff, that the tie is still on, and Emery was very I won't say very confident, but he filled me with confidence anyway in the press conference from the first leg defeat, when he mentioned that, well, yeah, they've scored the third goal tonight, PSG, but actually it doesn't change what we've got to do. It really doesn't, and he's kind of carried that through all the way up until the final whistle of the second leg, really, kind of positioning himself and the Villa team where they're never out of this tie, even though, as I said, they were 5-1 down, and to come back from that is it's a Goliath effort. It's monumental what they've done, really, to get back in the position that they are, or so that they were before Ian Matson, so was it a volley, I think, that was heading into the bottom corner, Pacho there clearing off the line. So this night could have been even better, and again, we're not talking about happiness at the result necessarily. Winning against PSG is great, but the tie overall, Villa are out of the Champions League, but this could have really been one where Villa had progressed to the semi-finals, and that is not something that anyone expected coming into this game, really, especially after going 2-0 down. So Villa's character, what they showed tonight was much more than just good football. It was a sensational football match, one for the neutral. I think everyone could probably respect it. That was just a brilliant game. You'd almost want to see that as a neutral, if that makes sense. Kind of rewatch it with fresh eyes almost, but I don't think you can now, looking back on what here's what you could have won at the end of it. But listen, Villa, as I say, will take huge amount of respect, firstly, from the outside world. I think this is again their first Champions League campaign, and to win, I think it's 8 out of 12 games that they've played, they've stayed unbeaten at home, beaten Bayern Munich, should have beaten Juventus. I think they were obviously unlucky with that goal at the end. Diego Carlos jumping with the goalkeeper, De Gregorio, I think his name is. And then obviously tonight, this is a night that goes down in Villa's history still, because they've beaten PSG, and who knows, in a few weeks it could be even better, to the fact that PSG could lift the European Cup for the first time in their history. And if Villa are the team to have beaten them in the quarterfinals, even though PSG go through on the tie, it's still a remarkable result. And I say that as well because PSG, having listened to being in the press conference for Luis Enrique and Ousmane Dembele yesterday, they said themselves, we're going to come here to win. We're going to come here to win the game and treat it like one match. So for Villa to win that, again, this isn't a PSG side who wanted to just sit back and protect a lead and govern their 12-yard box and 18-yard box. So that wasn't the case. So they went 2-0 up, and there was a feeling that they aren't particularly experienced, and I think that did show in patches. The Villa Park atmosphere and what Villa Park produces, it is comparable, and it is similar, I guess you could say, in terms of like an Anfield, other stadiums, where all of a sudden like a switch and you're caught up in a storm. You are dealt a set of cards that you're really going to struggle with here. That's exactly what PSG felt, and it's what Villa made full advantage of. They just couldn't get that fourth goal on the night. As Mandambele said before, we know it's going to be like Anfield we know it's going to be like St James's, and now Villa have kind of, I don't know, it's kind of like they've put a message out now to two clubs in European football. This is the top level of European football, and Villa have made themselves very, very aware now that they're here, and there's really no kind of letting up from this point on either. The first things that McGinn and Emery said after full time, concert 2, we want to be here again, we want to be here next year, and obviously they've got a good chance of that in the Premier League if they can get the results in the coming weeks and days. Newcastle on Saturday and City next week. But Villa aren't going anywhere. This is a club that's upwardly mobile. They've come a long way in a short space of time, but that isn't through luck, that isn't a fluke. They want to stay here and compete and win. That's the goal of the ownership group, and of course Unai Emery, who would not be here if those things didn't align. So yeah, it's a positive night, I guess, because no one expected Villa to be here, and after 30 minutes no one even could have dreamt about it. I think everyone thought, okay, well this is one to enjoy. The next let's enjoy the second half of Champions League football, because we won't be seeing it again. But when Ezri Konsa made it 3-2 on the night, you're thinking, oh my God, Villa are here. Then Tielemans has a header saved by Donnarumma, who had a fantastic game to his credit. And then, of course, it was Asensio who came off the bench against his former club and had a one-on-one. You feel like that was probably, I say that was the best chance. Konsa's header was a great chance as well. I didn't quite connect with Marcus Rashford's cross from a free kick, but Asensio one-on-one. Probably needs to take it around the keeper and open his body up a little bit, but hey, that's me. He's Asensio. He chose to apply the finish that he did. Donnarumma saved well. I guess again, credit the keeper. Rashford's Rashford's free kick, as I say, Konsa couldn't quite get a connection on it, which is a shame, because that would have been going in anywhere on target, you'd have thought. And then at the very end, Ian Maatsen off the line. Oh, agonising. But you don't want this night to be one of it is a big what if, what could have been situation. And I know that in the future it'll, again, literally when I wake up tomorrow, same as everyone else, you'll be replaying those in your mind every hour, every 20 minutes of your day. But we have to be so proud of what the club have, I hate to say achieved, because they haven't achieved something in terms of success that they want to. This is a building block to where they want to get to, and I think for lots of people that would have looked like competing well in the Champions League this season, and potentially getting a round of 16 game after winning a knockout playoff. It didn't look like that. Villa finished 8th in the league phase, top 8, which is a superb success, and then thrashed Club Brugge 6-1 in the round of 16 to get to this point. At PSG last week, they scored the first goal, and I think it's quite easy to think that certainly Villa were outclassed, because PSG are probably the best team left in the competition, for sure. But it's also very easy to think at that point, and I was a victim of that, culpable of it as well, to think that, okay, well, Villa aren't at this level now, and they're out the tie. And while that thing, while those feelings have kind of come true as such, like Unai Emery said, with the whole the third goal doesn't really matter because Villa have a job to do, and that's what we're going to try and here's how we're going to try and perform, and here's the game plan we're going to execute. It doesn't change, and he was actually bang on. I mean, why would we doubt him? But it was very easy last week to look at it and think, we're done. That third goal has killed us. Well, actually, now in the future, we can take experiences like Unai Emery says and think that, well, it never was over, because in the space of 3 minutes we scored twice. It's the same for the Celtic game, it's the same for other matches this season. I think we quick 5 goals against Forest too. That's what Villa Park can do to the home team, but also to the away team. You go in your shell, you kind of you want the earth to swallow you whole, because it's not a position that you want to be in when Villa Park is loud and getting behind their team. And there's moments in the game where Villa could have scored 2 more after they scored twice in 3 minutes. So in Emery's programme notes today as well, explaining that Villa Park's probably one of the best stadiums in world football. And again, the home advantage is like no other. And you can compare it to other stadiums too, but you wouldn't trade this for anything. And that's what we're seeing at the moment. Villa Park was, a fortress, I suppose you could say that, in the Championship. Or, I don't know, when Villa weren't doing very well in the Premier League some years ago, you can grind out some wins because you're playing at home. It's a completely different ball game now. We're now seeing the full effect of Villa Park, and under Unai Emery, of course, the second manager after Ron Saunders to have a run of 2 15-match unbeaten runs in the top flight. So we're seeing the kind of the power of Villa Park, and that's something that hopefully continues on Saturday. Villa, of course, lost to Newcastle last season, which ended that first run of a long unbeaten stretch in the top flight. And now on Saturday, hoping that Villa can give themselves a real boost for their Champions League hopes this season to finish above Newcastle or just within those top 5 positions by playing them on Saturday. And again, you just hope that this will work in Villa's favour, that we've had a taste of the Champions League. Not just a taste, but also a real feeling that we belong here. The players, that's exactly what they'll be feeling, especially after tonight. So you hope that they can kind of get over this and take real positives from the fact that they competed and came so close to overturning a result which was certainly against them in the first leg, but then in the second leg as well at Villa Park today, again 5-1 down. Really, most teams would have collapsed at that point and maybe lost a tight 7 or 8, I don't know, but not Villa. 5-4 they lost in the end, and as I say, I'm hoping that they can take something from it. That, okay, this is where we want to be, and we compete at this level. We're better than the Europa League. We're better than the Conference League. All of these different things, but you use that in the right way, not to be kind of overconfident, but use it to your advantage, that you can get to the Champions League again, because that's where those players belong now under Unai Emery. So we'll see how Villa go in the next weeks. Marcus Rashford on Instagram saying that the season is still alive, which is absolutely true. And as I say, I'd like to think that they're not going to be too negatively impacted by this. It's not as if it's a situation where Villa won at PSG and lost tonight 4-1 or something like that. That would play a mental or have a mental toll on you, I think. But that's not true for this game. Villa gave themselves, or have now, so much credit in the bank for what they've done this evening in terms of coming back and actually winning the game. And afterwards, you've got over the PA system, kind of the soundtracks that Villa will play when they've actually won a game. And they won a game tonight, but they didn't win the tie, and they've been knocked out of the Champions League. So, negative there. But it felt like almost like a celebration of what they've done in the Champions League. Emery, as you can imagine, born a winner. As are most of the players, you don't get to the level that they're playing at without being like that and having a kind of steadfast winning mentality. But booting, I think it was a can of something on the touchline after the full-time whistle. Damian Vidigani having a word with the linesman, I believe, because only 3 minutes were added at the end of the game. It's around 15 minutes into this video, and it's taken me this long to mention that I have absolutely no idea, genuinely no idea how the added time is worked out, because there must be something that I don't know, or that we don't know. How, with, what was it, I think 6 subs, 5 goals, do you get a combined added time in the first half and second half of 4 minutes? Someone please add that up. It's honest, it's one of my biggest frustrations in the rulings of football, of how you can't add numbers up correctly, unless there's a rule that says, I don't know, if it takes 1 minute for players to get back in the position after a goal, you only give it 20 seconds or 20% of the time. I have no idea, but it's so frustrating. And today, on the biggest stage of them all, it's I don't want to say it's bitterness, but clearly, if you added a few more minutes after Ian Matson just had a shot cleared off the line, there's every chance that maybe Villa score the next attack. So frustrating. Emery was asked about it after full time, but said he thinks that we had enough time still to win the game, and I definitely agree with that. And I don't like using these things as an excuse, and I'm not saying it's an excuse, but it's more just well, how is that not being added correctly? It's kind of black and white. It's, everyone can see that X amount of substitutions equals this time, X amount of goals. It's just whatever. It's just a frustrating one. I don't know how it works. It's always annoyed me. Even when Villa play and they win, I still don't understand the added time situation, but it is what it is. Villa will have to, I don't want to say pick themselves up, because there's the same hoping that this will actually enthuse them. We've just been PSG, yeah, we're out, but we want to go for the Champions League again, and we have to beat Newcastle. Or I say have to, I don't think they do have to beat Newcastle. If they don't, maybe you have to beat City. We certainly need to avoid defeat. But I think if you go into the game with the mentality, you have to win against the Newcastle team, who are obviously doing well themselves, but Villa at home, again, long unbeaten run, have just beaten PSG. Therefore, you can essentially beat anybody at Villa Park. We know that already. And if you can't beat anybody, then it almost feels like every game is a must-win, because every game now that Villa don't win at Villa Park is a bit of a downer, really, depending on circumstance, of course. But Villa have a fully fit team, fully fit now because Leon Bailey was in the squad, so no injuries, no excuses there. Tired legs, possibly, but Newcastle play on the Wednesday against Palace. That will be a difficult game for them. Hopefully Palace can pick up a result there to help Villa in the league table. So yeah, next game Saturday, then it's City on the next Tuesday, and then it's FA Cup semi-final against Palace. So yeah, plenty to look forward to still. Villa are out of the Champions League, but have had a fantastic night, even though they've been knocked out of the competition. But as I say, I'm just hoping they can use this energy and this kind of the feel-good factor that I think is still there to push them over the line for the Champions League again. And by the way, we'll be going into that if Villa were to get in the Champions League and thinking, well, we can be dark horses here because we've already gone so far last season. We know what Villa Park can do on a European night in any big game. So yeah, loads of learnings happening in the short space of time, really, that Unai Emery's been in charge. I mean, for a manager, it's not short space of time, but considering everything that we've done and the development that we've had, it feels like a very long time. So but it hasn't been. So again, that's testament to his work and the staff that he's got around him. We know that we have an elite manager at the helm here, and long may that continue.